Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm a Ukrainian. I have decided I will vlog daily from my country Ukraine since the start of this awful war with Russia. And in my daily vlogs I try to update you on the real life situation in Ukraine, and I'm always glad to answer your questions and to clarify some facts from our history and our past. And today I have decided to speak a little bit about one phrase that I use pretty often but still do not like. This is a phrase post-Soviet. We often describe countries, culture, economy, or whatever using this word, post-Soviet. And Ukraine also belongs to post-Soviet countries. But this is a media cliche that was created by one of the journalists to depict the countries that were formerly a part of the USSR. I have even made myself a list of these 15 countries that are described and are known as post-Soviet. And these are very, very different countries. And when you look at them, they are different in everything, starting from their history, tradition, religions that dominate, and even the parts of the world they belong to. So these countries that are often treated as post-Soviet are Azerbaijan, Belarus, Armenia, Estonia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Lithuania, Latvia, Moldova, of course, Russian Federation, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Ukraine. And sometimes, due to the fact that these countries are so different, they can be like subdivided into groups of Baltic countries, into a group of Central Asian countries, also Eastern Europe, and Ukraine belongs to the Eastern European group, and Southern Caucasian. And by the way, many Ukrainians are getting used to the fact that we are described as an Eastern European country. But a couple of years ago, you could find lots of people who would object and say, no, we are Central European, not having anything against Eastern European countries. And I believe we belong to this Eastern Europe. But many believe that like the center of Europe is located in Ukraine, the geographical, according to one of the versions, the geographical center of Europe is located in Ukraine. But there are lots of versions, lots of these centers, and anyway. So these post-Soviet countries, they were once part of the USSR, and after the fall of the USSR, lots of leaders of former USSR republics believed they will be able to recreate something similar to USSR. And they had lots of agreements that had lots of ideas, and if you Google, you will find lots of these unions that were, of course, always under the leadership of Russia. And the most successful example is the modern history of Belarus. They have signed an agreement of a union state or something like that between Russia and Belarus back in 1997 on the initiative of Lukashenko president, and as a result many of their special services, military services, some economic things, they are common. So for example, for me it is not safe not only to travel to Russia but also to travel to Belarus, and I would like to, because there are some places I would like to see. And I personally support our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kuleba, who back in 2021 said that it is incorrect to speak about post-Soviet area and we have to try to avoid using this term. I know I use it myself because it's easier to explain the zone, but in general, when you think about the cultures, the standards of life in these countries, you will agree that they are all very, very different. But the only thing that all of these post-Soviet countries have in common are traumas and problems with Russia. And lots of conflicts and wars in the 20th century and in the 21st century were the result of Russian aggression. And inside these post-Soviet countries, there are lots of conflicts that were frozen or that led to separatist movements, and the majority of the separatist movements, I believe even in the world, are funded by Russia. So in 1992, they have financed the conflict and supported the conflict and real war in Moldova, and Transnistria region is now the unknown region, the problematic region. And many people claim that the Russian war in Ukraine can continue to the region of Transnistria. And I'm personally surprised at the neutrality of Moldova. I know they don't have strong armed forces, but sometimes a voice is also important. Then the second victim of this post-Soviet zone is, of course, Georgia and their war 2008, and Abkhazia and Southern Ossetia regions that were occupied, and now they are again the frozen conflicts and non-existent states and other things. Another important problem, that was the wars in Chechnya, actually two wars in 1994 and in 1999. And the first one actually resulted in the Russian defeat, but they tried to manipulate and to pretend it was their victory. And in general, Chechnya is a very small country, and they managed, with their bravery, they managed to oppose Russia. And Russians did lots of crimes against humanity on the territory of Chechnya. And I believe one day this country will also become independent. And also conflicts in Azerbaijan, in Karabakh, and recently they were active again in 2020. And from what I understand, the Soviet politics, when they were developing the borders, they were trying to encode conflicts inside of these borders, because even the borders of Ukraine, they are not ideal, and they did not correspond to the real life situation at the beginning of the 20th century, because some parts of Ukraine are now parts of Russia. Once again, we respect the international law, and we are not going to fight back these regions of Russia, I guess. But many territories were they tried to encode these conflicts, and the same about Azerbaijan and Armenia, and other examples like that, because by using this conflict, by using various separatist movements, they can weaken the countries, weaken the economy, and so on. And of course, annexation of Donbass, Luhansk regions, Crimea, this is also the heritage of the post-Soviet zone. But all of our countries are very, very different, and the only thing that we share in common are these traumas that were caused by Soviet occupation. And I will always continue that it was not just a decision to unite all of these so different states into one country, but it was an occupation. And lots of bad things happened to the cultures, to the populations of these countries. And I think all of these 15 enumerated, 14 without Russia, can provide you examples how Russian regime led to tragedies on the territories of these countries. So even though I use this term post-Soviet countries, I think that taking into account thousands of years of our history, it's not okay to associate us only with that Soviet period or Russian Empire period, because many European countries suffered of close neighborhood with other empires, and Ukraine was divided between different empires. But today we are an independent country, actually the largest country in Europe, and the country that shares European values. And I'm sure the day when it is safe to travel to Ukraine will come, and you will see that there are lots of things that are in common between us and the Western world in general. And I'm proud of these things, because I do believe this is the civilized world. And also, I do like the idea of Southern Europe, and one of my favorite writers, Polish writer Olga Tokarczuk, she speaks a lot about this myth of Eastern Europe, how the time flies differently here. And I do think that instead of being shy, like we are a little bit dragging behind and so on, there are lots of myths, and the atmosphere of Eastern Europe is very alive, and we have so many troubles, but at the same time, you know, people with troubles are typically interesting people. So that's what I can say about our part of the world. So I hope this information was interesting and useful for you, and tomorrow I'm waiting for all of you on a live stream. We're going to have 1 hour session, and I have set a timer so that I don't need to tell this different time zones. This will be 8 p.m. Ukrainian time, but the rest of you can see it on my page according to your time zones, and I will be very happy to see you, to chat, to answer some of your questions. Also, thank you for your support. Thank you for your inspiration, motivation. Thank you for being with me and with Ukraine. If you like my vlogs, do subscribe, and Slava Ukraini!